Yeah.
I mean, I gotta go into the office and do something from 1962, you gotta crank it up to do a patch.
Replace it with a pole.
It's like the 1800s.
District 10, let's do that.
Really? Oh, this is the only,
It's pretty graphic.
he said 9 o'clock.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Board of Trustees workshop at Village of Fredonia Hall, 911 Church Street, Fredonia, New York. On this July 2nd, 2025 at 9 a.m., I'm Mayor Mike Ferguson. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We'll go through the resolutions. Budget transfer for FEMA contract.
This is about the spillway.
Yeah, I want to talk about the FEMA contract when we get to number 2.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Number 2,
Okay.
FEMA contract.
All right.
Yeah.
So we got a $165,000 grant from FEMA and Homeland Security, of which our portion is 25%, which is $41,250. So we had our second meeting with FEMA and Labella and the Department of Health last week. Because my question was, are they going to be, their scope, the same as what Labella's study was? Because if it is, then why would we double dip there? And it's not the same scope. There's much more, theirs will be much more detailed, and in their paperwork, and I'll quote this, it says, "The study to analyze viable options for an unsound dam." So what Labella told us is, in their, once we make a determination, the work that FEMA's doing, they would have to do anyway. But they can take FEMA's information and then not have to do that work. So whatever they find out, they can take FEMA's information and incorporate that into whatever the long-term plan is that we're doing. So both FEMA and Department of Health recommended that we move forward with the FEMA project, to have them do their study. So, and I think you all got copies of, I think in the handout, there were copies of their contract, and it kind of goes into depth of what actually they were doing. They got a little too technical for my adult brain, and I really couldn't follow, so I thought I'd read it and try to figure it out. But that's the gist of what it is they're looking to do.
What is the highlight of the scope? Because I haven't read that FEMA report, but is it spillway? Is it the integrity of the dam?
Yes,
All the above?
all of that. Yeah.
Okay.
It's all that.
All right.
And to make recommendations, their recommendations about what we should do after their study's done, their recommendations will be included.
So
The
that's
point is, we would have to do it no matter which direction the water project goes.
And they did say it would be a year at least.
Right.
Yeah.
And as I understand, this is more from a safety perspective?
Yeah.
Health and safety?
Yeah. So that's that.
any chance that we could get a grant for that $41,000?
No. That's, I think that's our responsibility. Anytime you get a
Yeah.
grant, we've got to pay a portion.
The matching portion?
Sometimes you
Right.
can get a state grant to cover the matching portion of a federal grant.
Yeah.
Didn't know that.
The key to it is, no matter what the final decision on the water project is, that dam sits there, and the spillway sits there under a threat of, we've seen some pretty significant weather changes in the last few years, and North Carolina is a perfect example. All witnessed that firsthand. Of a 100-year flood, and has nothing to do with where we get our water from. It has the fact that that's a threat right now.
Yeah.
So the longer it takes to get that resolved, one way or another, the more we're sitting here, sitting duck. So we have to get that finished.
Doesn't this have to do with Because we're considered a high hazard dam too,
Yes.
John?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the, I believe, the New York State classification.
Right.
Yeah, and in their report, they consider it unsound is the way they. term it.
Unsound, right.
Yeah.
Number 3, the Town of Pomfret water application. It's been included in the packet.
Yeah.
Number 4, library roof repairs. The project is in there for $2,500.
Is this, I'm sorry, Mike.
Ceiling's falling in.
Oh,
It's new leaks.
new leaks,
I'll
because I thought we just
explain.
had a repair last year.
Yeah.
I'll explain.
Yeah.
It seems to be that the first person who fixed our roof thought it was all taken care of, but a year later, well, pretty close to a year later, it started leaking again horribly. And we called they called Jamestown Roofing, and they said it has to do with an eaves trough that's over the roof that's above it, that the water was spilling over it and causing the damage. So
Okay.
let's hope this is going to fix it.
Yeah,
Who did the work last time?
Farrell Roofing,
yeah.
so
Okay.
they weren't successful at
So Jamestown Roofing is
identifying that. Yes, they're-
gonna do the new diagnosis
Exactly.
and potential repair.
yeah.
Well, it's $2,500 for the whole.
So
And-
I'm assuming they've already looked at it and have determined what
They
the work.
have,
Yeah, because I
yes.
think they were pretty.
True.
They
That sounds
itemized.
pretty specific.
That's the proposal we have.
Yeah.
It's for that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Structural gear fire department, number 5.
I had asked Erlis about this, and Josh, if you could just verify, the $11,000 was approved in the capital portion of the fire budget for PPE. Right,
Yeah, originally asked for 4 cents, it's coming out to 2, so we
right,
have those 2 cents.
thanks.
You
Fire
don't-
truck, go ahead,
Oh.
I'm sorry. I didn't know. Go ahead.
I just want to ask the chief, you don't have extra sets that they could use?
Yeah, the extra sets we have are way too big, way too small, and we also have some things that are out of date that we just hold on to for exterior firemen. We might outfit them, but we don't have anything in our reserve for part of our supply.
Well, I guess I'm just concerned because we are in a deficit spending, and I was hoping that we wouldn't have to acquire these items right away.
Yeah, kind of like I explained in the budget process, if we don't buy two or 4 sets a year, we're gonna be doing what we did 3 years ago, and we're gonna be spending that 74,000, I think, is what we spent because we needed to buy every interior fireman a second year. So that's why I pushed so hard for it during the budget process of we have to buy a few sets every year to get it in rotation.
Is there any way that you could get a grant to replace these?
There are grants out there, but we wouldn't be eligible with that gear purchase that we just did. We wouldn't show that. We just got a grant for all new hose and appliances, so that was good. We're still executing studying that, so that was $73,000 that we got awarded.
Okay, well, thank you.
Fire truck committee, travel to Wyoming, Minnesota.
I do have a question on that. How many days will you be gone?
We fly out we fly out Sunday, we return Wednesday, so 3 working days, 4 days total.
Does this have any impact on overtime at the fire station?
I'd have to get back to you on that. I know for myself, obviously, it does not. For Chuck, does not. For Tyler, does not, because his only shift is Thursday. Dan had a shift that we filled. I'd have to look to see if we filled it with a part-time or what we did. I'd have to get back to you on that.
So we have to go get our own fire truck for $250,000?
No, this is the final inspection, so after it's built, that's why it takes so long, because it's actually a painful process. It's a 1,000-page binder with every spec we did, every drawer, every shelf, everything. We have to go through it and inspect the final inspection, make sure it's built to our specifications, and if it's not, we catch it and fix it.
How many people are on the committee?
well, there was 5, but when Dan Berg left, now it's 4. And this is no expense to us, I think it says that in there, but
Yeah.
this is
Right.
on the expense of the Empire who we bought that register.
That's good. I was just concerned about overtime, how that would be affected.
Yeah, I can-
Is part of that inspection more than just visual? You
we do
actually
everything. Yes,
do operations on it?
Yeah, we pump water for hours, we do everything,
Okay,
everything. Any moving part on that, exercise all the valves, everything.
nice.
Number 7, budget transfer, Labella grant proposal.
I had spent some time, you know, Alyssa is really, she's good at writing grants, but with her workload right now, especially with the state here, and they're taking up a lot of her time, and I think if, not that I don't think she could do it, I know she could do it, but right now, she would be overtaxed if she was doing that as well, so. Yeah, so my personal opinion is we're better off letting the professionals do it for us.
How much is that going to cost?
15,000?
15,000.
Yeah.
No,
I thought it was 19.
19,500, I think.
Yeah, 19,000.
19,000.
19, that's
Yeah.
what I thought.
So it's a little more than we were thinking.
There's their quote.
It's right in our, we're transferring the funds from
Yeah, I
the
wanna
water
see-
fund balance.
Just want to see the quote, but it's in there somewhere.
It is in there somewhere.
I did happen to pick up, by the way, I mean, it's Labella's proposal, but I mean, I did happen to pick up the name of a local grant writer. So if you would like me to, I'll at least get a quote as to what that may cost. I mean, it is Labella who's doing this, and it's Labella's project, so it's probably best that they do that. But if there is
Yeah.
interest in
What is our track record with Labella regarding grant writing?
I'm not sure they'd ever written one
Yeah.
for us. We haven't gotten to that point yet.
Were they involved in the Main Street grant?
yeah.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
they were.
Michael
Yeah.
Colquitt did do that one, yeah.
And
Right.
in
Right.
fact, we got acknowledged for having it in quickly and efficiently. And, one of the reasons why you get it done. You know, part of the deal, when people talk about Labella, it's like anything else. Labella's the big dog in the state. So yeah, the big dog gets fed more. But when the big dog applies to New York State, there's everybody else's proposals, and there's Labella's over here. And these are pretty much green-lighted just because they know that it's going to be done the right way in the first place.
Well, so I would hate to have a grant writer that's not familiar with our water system, or they'd have to acquaint themselves with the study and to know exactly, you know, what our issues were, and
Right.
because Michael works with the engineer so well, it just makes more sense to have him do it, or whoever they assign that to.
Yeah, he's not the grant writer any longer, right?
There's
Michael.
they've
His
got a
offices,
couple of them,
yeah.
yeah, they've got a couple of them.
Right, but there was reassignments, I remember him saying.
And then number 8 is the grant writing proposal. Let's move on to department reports, code enforcement. Chuck?
Planning board posting next week, the hospital. That's about it.
I do want to thank you and Tom. There were a couple issues with properties in the village, and they were addressed, and both properties are moving forward, cleaning up those properties. So we appreciate the quickness that you responded to it, and of course I talked to you about Liberty Street. There's a Liberty Street issue with regards to a local company.
Hey, Chuck has the outfit that was looking to put solar panels down on Clinton Street. Have they been in contact with you? Are they moving forward with that, or?
They're still working through, the DEC came up with some new federal wetlands, and they're trying to delineate those right now. Once they get those done, then they'll apply, for their site plan and stuff. So the solar battery, project that's across Cliff Street, I believe is still moving forward too. I just haven't submitted anything yet. Kind of waiting for that new law, hopefully, to get in place
Yeah,
before they do, because I think we'll need it.
thank you.
Yeah, my understanding on that is, I'm sorry,
Go
that
ahead.
they sent it to legal. It's completed, battery storage,
Yeah.
and now it's been handed out to legal.
Yeah, I think the board got a copy of it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I think Amy sent a copy to the board, and then I believe we sent it to the attorney to put it in legal form and set the so we get the public hearing.
So we could prepare for a public
Yeah.
hearing, Chuck?
Public
Okay, great.
Yeah.
I'd like to see that moved along.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a couple
We
of
read
projects
it.
pending on that, and it
Mhm.
seems like it's the way of the future with these batteries. So,
Right.
and the law makes it go for variances and stuff like that, so,
Mhm.
or without it, I really don't have a lot to stand behind. So I need that.
Thank you.
Right.
Water treatment plant, Lewis.
LaBella will be at the plant, 11 o'clock to a walkthrough, to move forward with the chlorination upgrade.
Okay. Department, DPW is out of town today, as is wastewater treatment plant. Recreation Department launched their summer program this week,
Yes.
highly successful, and yet another big, over 300 registrations. So we thank Kayla and her team and the team downstairs for executing that. Chief Price, Police Department.
I really don't have much, just, you know, I rode around yesterday and stopped at each park, made sure that the attendants knew how to contact us if they needed assistance with anything. Spoke with the rec director and made her, or asked her, asked her to confirm my conversation with her attendants so that they know how to get a hold of her and me if there's a problem. It's a busy holiday weekend coming up. Family and friends get together on hot days. Things change, but the 4th of July, just, you know, that there are fireworks now. They're considered fireworks that are sold at Walmart that are legal. So, and I gotta be honest with you, it's tough for us sometimes to differentiate what's legal and what's not. I mean, obviously the M80s, the loud ones that make noise are the ones that, or the loud report on them are the ones that are illegal, but just be aware of your neighbors, be a good neighbor, and try and keep things under control. We do get a lot of calls.
C4 is not illegal.
No.
I did have a question about that. I had a resident call me, and I know you have spoken to them about their neighbor who sets off fireworks. And the issue sounds like they do it after 11 o'clock. Is there a time limit considered about, you know, making loud noises?
That would fall under the noise ordinance.
Right.
And Chief and I had talked about the possibility of making that part of that nuisance law that we were talking about, that can include sound, can include fireworks, can
Right.
include, you know, I got somebody not too far from us that the second the sun comes up, starts opening a shooting range, you know, and it's not, well, they're allowed to do it, they're not in the Village of Fredonia, but the point of the matter is sound ordinances, and we have them, the more we have, and the more that are solid to help him, to help the legal department, you know, more I's dotted and T's crossed to lock it up.
So how can you distinguish between the different fireworks? I mean, what? There's no real way of,
So it's not just sparklers anymore, that it used to just be sparklers and all those things that go up in the air and go boom.
There's a report, you're not
We're illegal.
supposed to have it, but how do I know what you're carrying, what you're holding
Yeah,
until it's used? And for me, for my guys to write a violation, they have to witness it. So calling the mayor and calling the trustee 5 days after the incident is not gonna fix the problem. I spoke with that person, and you have to
Yes.
call us when it occurs. And don't think we're not there, because my guys will sit and wait for it to happen. They're not gonna go to the house to address a complaint that they can't do anything about. They'll
Right.
sit and wait for it to occur. And somebody like that,
right,
that she's talking about, is probably not a good neighbor.
no, I understand they play loud music too, and, I mean,
Someone's down in the creek across from our house letting them off, and it scares the deer. So,
Well, and that's
as we
something,
discussed last week.
that's something to remind folks, when you have dogs and you have cats and you have things, that this weekend's gonna be kind of a nerve-wracking time for them.
Where I
So,
live,
you know.
I can't tell which direction it's coming from sometimes, because
Yeah.
it is dependent on the wind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bounces, that
Yeah.
noise bounces off trees, it's,
Give me a call, I can tell you where one is.
they're certainly out there, I hear them, but, you know, what are you gonna do? You know, They
Yeah,
could
it's
be
tough.
coming from a
Well,
long
rest-
way away.
Rest assured that the police are out there. I'm sure the fire department's keeping their eyes on things too, and that's with regards to that, but the best thing to do is call the police department when it's happening so that they can witness it and attend to it. Thank you. Anything else, Dave?
thank you, chief.
Do you have anything else? Dave?
no, I'm
Anything
sorry.
else? Okay.
I
Chief Myers, fire?
Not too much going on. Last week we did some community relations with the school. That was a really good turnout, a lot of accolades from that, so I'm very happy. Our new hire goes for civil service physical July 8th, so I'm looking forward to that. And then I need a 30-second executive session after this. I apologize, but we'll figure something out.
Chief, I did want to ask you, I know the police chief said that he spoke with some of the recreation department people that are working at the playgrounds. And I know on a regular basis, the firemen would also come and speak to them. Do you have plans to do
Yeah,
that?
no, so if we don't, historic years,
This is
the
just.
rec director has reached out to me to do some type of education for them. I haven't heard anything this year. No, I have not reached out to them.
So it would be her responsibility to call you?
If she'd like to set something up, yeah, absolutely.
Right.
I don't even think we should be doing it anyways. We talked about it in the department head meeting. I think these counselors should be required to have some type of training, whether it's a basic first aid and CPR, you know. But that's not my decision, that's the board's decision.
Right.
As
Well,
far as getting a hold of us, they just dial 911. Is that what you told them? You can, your test number?
I gave them both because 2 places have landlines, the other 3 don't. So I shared that they should be calling our landline for immediate assistance if they don't have a 911 connection.
I know in the past, the fire department has done that. That's why I'm questioning it.
Yeah, we've done it at the request of them. We've never drove around, not for the last 3 years I've been here.
So if she requests you to come, you would be able to support that?
Yeah, absolutely, depending on the request. I don't think, we can't teach them first aid. We're not first aid instructors, right? So it's becomes a liability thing. If I teach him first aid and then he messes it up on you, it's gonna come back to me because I'm not a first aid instructor. So we've done it the last 2 years out of a courtesy, and I felt uncomfortable, and I've had that conversation, saying, hey, listen, I know it's kind of too late now, your camp starts in a week, but next year, let's try to get ahead of this, let's actually get and it's gone nowhere, so my plate's too full, I can't worry about that as well. I've given the recommendation, and
Not to interrupt, but I would say that with the number of children that we're getting in the program, it's probably a good idea to look at some sort of
Yeah.
training. I know
That's
New
what I
York
was
State
hoping
did provide an online, the governor's office provided an online training that for rec directors with regards to safety and things. I sent it out. I don't know if it was followed up on, but they're going to be doing that on an annual basis, so we'll follow up with that because I think with the number of kids, it's probably a good idea.
Yeah, it's a 4-hour class. American Red Heart will teach it. It's a free class. They have to pay $5 if they want a card. I don't think they need a card, so for all intents and purposes, it's free. You know, there's instructors everywhere that can do that. We would let them use the firehouse's basement. We would facilitate it. I just can't teach. We're not qualified to teach
Okay.
those.
You don't have any instructors in the fire department?
We have now, Adam Aarons went and got it through Brooks, through All-Star, so he could do it. And I want to say Jake's one, but I don't know. But yeah, we'd have to coordinate that. But there are classes that come through the firehouse.
I was gonna say,
Fires, yep.
I used to teach first aid and CPR for many years, but I dropped my certs, 10 years ago or so. So I can't do that, but one day would be a great, that would be a great thing, get some CPR and first aid training for
Right.
all our rec staff. That would be a really,
You guys
Good
are free to
thing
go
to
if you
keep
want,
in
or you can
mind.
hang out for the rest of the meeting.
Definitely.
Your
Too
call.
late to do it this year.
Okay, on to new business, fire lieutenant job
Excuse
description.
me,
Yes.
we were,
Well, I was just asking the question, timing-wise, is it too late to initiate that now?
Yeah.
For state training?
It's already in the day 3. And
Okay.
well,
can't do it
if,
when the kids are there.
yeah, we'd have
And we're
to,
not gonna pay overtime for the kids. I'll tell you that.
we need to get
Well,
that in
they-
place ahead of time,
For next year?
yeah.
but we pay them to be working at the playground. They're not being paid to set up, set up time. So, no matter what, it would be during the time when they're working.
No, if they're working, they can't be trained. They're
Well,
watching
we'll
kids.
have to look
We have a
into that.
responsibility to
Yeah.
look at children.
If it's
We
a,
can't be
if
doing
it's a
training.
4-hour class, we can't take all the rec workers away.
No, no.
Next year, it's a
That's what I'm
prerequisite,
saying. We'll have
We
to
could even
figure
prior
that
to-
out.
job
Right.
requirements.
prerequisite prior to the start of summer camp.
Yep.
Yeah.
You got too many responsibilities watching the kids now, so.
Okay.
And,
With the number of children
Right.
that are participating, I'm just
Yeah.
concerned about that.
I agree with you.
Thank you.
Good idea, Paul. New business, fire lieutenant job description. Is that position a requirement I have written here?
I can speak on that, so. Fire lieutenant position was created long before me, but there was never a requirement to be a paramedic. So you could be a medic, you could be a basic. It just happens to work out that the 3 lieutenants were paramedics. But there's nothing saying, they can't say, chief, I don't want to recert, I want to go back down to a basic. There's nothing I can say about it. It'd be fine to do that. When we created the captain position, we made that a requirement. I want to make the lieutenant position mirror that before we fill the open lieutenant, because this is the time to do it. It wouldn't impact the current 2, it wouldn't impact Tim Fisher or Ben Syracuse if they'd fall under the grandfather, so if they chose a job as they could, but it would require whoever we promote next to have that for their entire career. As you know, it's very hard to find medics, so I really think this is a management tool for me to make sure that this individual is going to keep their medic for their entire. Doesn't cost us anything to do it. They're already a medic. Their research are included in the research program, so it's no expense. It's just it has to be a motion from the board for me to coordinate the civil service to change it.
I guess my hesitancy would be depending on the outcome of the new contract with the fire department. If the requirement to have 2 medics on every shift is dropped, then the requirement to send a certain percentage of hires to medic school would not be necessary, right? If the requirement to have 2 on every shift goes away, that wouldn't be necessary anymore. So, if that happened, in the long run, there may not be any medics anyway.
Sure. Yeah, and in respect to that answer, same answer I'm always going to give you. If that happens,
Right.
then we can then change our course as well. But I have to operate under the current contract, and this makes the most sense with their time. I could change this job description every year. It wouldn't be very fair to the guys, but I could change it every single year. So this is nothing. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Sure.
Changing it with civil service?
Yeah, it's just a job description for civil service that they sign up for the test with. So that's why it's important to do that before we officially appoint someone and test for it.
Okay.
Under new business, it's kind of old business. I don't have it on your document, but Village Hall repairs, we're going to have to really do an inventory of the repairs that need to be done for the building and quit talking about it and find a project or grants that we're going to have to, the roof is, I've got a quarter of the judge's chambers roof sitting on the judge's desk. We've got some significant damage to the Opera House, and winter's probably 5 short months away. So whatever we're going to do, we need to address it pretty quickly. And as well as the loading dock in the back, which we have to talk about for the Opera House. So what I would like to do is, I know we don't have necessarily a building committee, but ask a couple of you to be on it so we can do a mock-up of what is needed to be done, how much it would cost to get it done, and how we would go about finding grants or outright monies to repair those things. Part of the problem is many of the companies in the area don't have equipment that go up as high as our roof. Also, to what extent is the roof damaged? But between this building and the library, you know, we have some pretty serious things that we have to take care of. Okay?
We met with Rick Davis yesterday just to talk to him about it, get his input. And I guess Dan that works with him has more extensive knowledge of what the issues are, where they are. So my first thought is maybe we need to look outside, maybe the Buffalo Erie area, if those larger roofing companies have the equipment to actually get up there and do it. See if they'll come down and talk to Dan, give us estimates, and then we can, at least we know what money we're chasing, when we know what the cost
What
is gonna
about
be.
Jamestown Roofing?
Well, they've been here 3 times and
okay,
never
yeah.
returned.
Yeah, they've been here,
Really?
but they never
What was-
gave Rick an estimate of what the cost might be.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that
That's
sounds
not
like they're
good.
not
And
really.
it may be a
interested
project
in
that they can't undertake because of
Uh-huh.
they don't have the,
Because of the height of the
yeah,
building?
right equipment to do it.
Yeah.
Right.
We want to try to keep it as local as possible, but
Yeah.
if it can't be, then we have to.
Yeah.
The town got a grant for municipal building, didn't they?
They did.
For their
For,
new,
Well,
yeah.
maybe we should explore a grant for a new municipal building and walk away from this and give them the Opera House.
We talked about
We talked about that.
He was.
We talked about taking over the downtown Concord offices, what I'm saying.
I'm sorry, we keep throwing money at this place.
I know.
Yeah.
My whole
Yeah.
career, I've watched it, and
right.
what
But there-
we've
yeah.
thrown away the last 30 years, we would have paid off the municipal building by now. I'm just-
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing with you, but either way, the roof needs to be repaired because the judge can't be working there with water and
Right.
roofing material coming down on his desk. So I'm not disagreeing with you. I think that's something I would like to explore at some point.
And a couple of things, just so the public who are scratching their heads and saying, we've heard this for years and years and years. We have talked to local developer about possible separate building. We looked at the possibility of the Big Lots building, but there is a pretty good possibility that Big Lots will be coming back into the area. I see people in the building yesterday. And there is a distinct possibility that the Rite Aid building, now the Rite Aid building may not be big for all of us, enough room for all of us to be in there, but it certainly might be an option for the police department or other offices there. It's within.
Because the Rite Aid building is actually in the city of Dunkirk.
It's in the city of
Right.
Dunkirk, that's what I mean, so it might
It
be
is.
something if we're talking about police department, something along those lines.
Well, you're
I'm kind
talking
of
about that
excited about the developers discussion, but I can't talk about that until I have more information on it.
I did want to add something about repairing. I know, Chief, you're not too happy about having your room torn up, but it really, that sewage problem we have in the basement has to be resolved because,
So here we are on that. A couple gentlemen at NCCF that expressed an interest in perhaps undertaking that. I gave them the quote from Gugino, and they wanted an assurance from Gugino that if they're gonna spend that money, that's gonna fix the problem. Because they didn't wanna have work done and then
Continue,
it doesn't
right,
doesn't
trying to
work.
solve it.
So I had Scott talk to Gugino, and Gugino said they were 99% sure
oh,
that their recommended
Right.
fix would take care of the problem.
well,
So-
didn't they say it was a 4-inch line? I mean, that's
Well, I don't think it's the line, I think it's the, where
where
it
it connects.
joins, where it connects, yeah, so.
Right,
So
But-
that's where we are right now.
okay, but I hope to get that fixed before we get 400 people
Right.
in the Opera House
Yeah.
flushing toilets
Yeah.
again.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
we don't
This
want to
is
go
the
through
time to
that
do
again.
it.
Right, that's
Right.
why I'm saying, yeah.
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 Okay.
How-
start
How
September?
soon? Yes,
September?
September.
So July, August,
I-
2 months?
I know, that's why I keep talking about it, but how soon could you get an answer from them? Then.
I'll ask them, see where they are.
Yeah.
Okay, 2 other letters of acceptance.
Thank you.
Department of Environmental Conservation. This is for the inspection of the wastewater treatment plant. On May 29th, 2025, I conducted an inspection of the above-mentioned facility. Purpose of the inspection was to assess the facility's compliance with the terms and conditions of its state pollutant discharge elimination system. Inspection was found that the plant met the compliance level of satisfactory, which is good. And then it goes on to talk about the dates and things, and that's from William Murray, the professional engineer for environment for the state of New York. The other one is permit transmittal letter of the bank stabilization along Canada Way Creek, Water Street Municipal Parking Lot, Village of Fredonia. Encloses the permit, which was issued in accordance with the applicable provisions of the Environmental Conservation Law. Permit is valid only for that project activity and expressly authorized. So we have expiration date of the permit is at the end of the year. So we have actually about 180 days, so a little bit longer. But to get the project done, the DEC and local folks are aware of that, so we'll be working on that this summer. And then again, as I said, the governor's holding a wastewater security, or wastewater security briefing today at 11:30, and that's available on Zoom. So if you want the connection, I can send it to you. Any other business to be brought before the board at this time before we go into executive session?
Yeah, I had talked about maybe permitted parking spots in the east and west parking lot. I don't know if we need to enact a law to do that or just take it upon ourselves to do it, but it's something I would like to move forward with before the new semester starts.
Right.
We've identified 8
sounds
spots
good.
in each parking lot, right?
Yeah.
And it would be more towards the back of the parking lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'll do some research to see if we just need to do it or we need to,
Do we have to put that on the books? Yeah,
yeah, I'll find out.
I'm
what we
pretty
need to
sure,
do, But I
yeah.
would like to move forward with that.
that sounds like a great idea.
It's really
For
something we can
spots.
take care of in-house downstairs. So they come in,
Right.
they get a color sticker for their car.
Right.
Changes every year. Don't have to buy a lot of stickers, but, you know, it's a matter of generating revenue and not just letting people, of course, if they pay for it, they'll leave their car there, but just organizing our parking spaces a little bit better. Anything else?
I'd like to bring up our last board meeting. We had the DEC representative here for the deer overpopulation issue in the village. And I think it was really good. It was educational. But what I'd like the board to think about is, with that information, what can we do? You know, like let's seriously look at alternate solutions or approaches to the issue. So I don't know if you want to discuss that now, but let's be thinking about that.
I thought one of them that made the most sense was to allow people to hunt on your property, but I don't know how that falls into I know it can create some nonsense, right? Can create some
Those are
issues,
state laws.
okay. But I mean, as far as making sure people are where they're supposed to be, and
Yeah.
and I think it requires a signature, that's all it really requires is a letter from the landowner, but you don't want 30 guys tromping around the village, all shooting at Bambi
No.
and taking somebody out, so.
I-
It'd have to be written
And
down.
maybe I'm not remembering it correctly, but didn't he say that some other municipalities had a hunt to cull the
Yeah.
herd?
Yep.
And they had to get special permission in order to do that, and to get the state to sign off on that. So,
Well, a property owner, you're right, if you're
Right.
gonna do an organized call like that, you
Right.
do. But a property owner, if I had more property in my backyard, all I have to do is give them permit.
right.
But I think
do
the
it.
DEC can issue permits for them to take more than the normal allotment of deer, which is something that we might pursue with those few people. There aren't very many, but there are a few hunters in the village who would be. And if we could support somehow them getting a permit which allowed them to take more than one deer, that would be possibly a plus. We could get a few more taken.
Paul, do you want to be in contact with that guy and see what the steps would be for us to move forward with a hunt? Just to see if it's even a possibility.
So like an
Yeah.
organized bow hunt? Is that what you mean?
Possibly,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
I mean, we have some bow hunters in town who do some hunting on some larger parcels. I know I've given permission for them to use my land, but it's not very much land.
Right.
So,
Okay.
What,
see-
what about talking to the other communities that have been successful with this? Maybe they could give us some pointers too,
Yeah, get.
don't you
i-
think?
If you could, when you're speaking with him.
Okay.
Yeah.
See if there's anyone we can talk to.
Got it.
Right.
Good
All right,
idea.
I'll report back on next meeting on that.
Thanks, Paul.
Thanks, Paul.
If there's nothing else before the board, a motion to go into executive session.
I'll make the motion.
I'll
Second.
second it.
Trustee Twitchell,
Aye.
trustee Wendell,
Aye.
trustee Brockler,
Aye.
trustee Esperson.
Aye.
Thank you, folks.